We're back with a Fox News alert. President Trump speaking on the phone with Chinese President Xi Jinping, discussing the North Korean threat. The two sides agree that the rogue nation should not have nuclear weapons and want a peaceful solution.
This comes as North Korea's military led a large state-run march through Pyongyang. Leaders saying they're ready to turn the U.S. mainland into ash.
President Trump also reaching out to the governor of Guam to reassure his people's safety as Kim Jong-un threatens to launch missiles near the island.
Here to comment on all of this right now is former U.S. Navy SEAL officer and founder of Blackwater USA, currently runs the Frontier Service Group, Erik Prince. Erik, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
I've looked at some of your comments on North Korea. You have some unconventional ideas about ways we could get at the Kim Jong-un regime that don't have to include the military necessarily.
Look, I think one of the aspects that should be pursued immediately is to figure out how to communicate with the North Korean people. That big rally you see pictures of, that was mandatory fun. Those people had to be there. You know, remember the wall in Eastern Europe, the Soviet wall came down because the people on the east side of the wall figured out what was on the west side of the wall. And so I would do call it a carpet bombing campaign of information, figuring out how to push information to those people, smuggling in cheap cell phones that they can watch videos, that they can communicate with each other on Bluetooth, and particularly videos of South Korea, of the rest of the world, of sporting events, of real estate listings, all the kind of things that they realize then that they'll be missing.
Erik, haven't we tried this? I mean, I've read reports about how we've attempted to, or we've been doing this for years, broadcast radio into North Korea. We've been trying to get information into that country, but I don't know if there's like a wall of brainwashing that keeps them from believing it. I don't know. I mean, haven't we been trying this?
Yes, but probably with lower tech. I mean, radio is probably 20 years ago compared to pushing cell phones in now. If you interview or read the interviews of defectors that have come out, it's when they realize that all of North Korea is a big lie, that they take serious risk of life to even try to escape. The more people that know what's on the other side of that wall, they will make a change.
Erik, what do we do with China? Because it is because of China that North Korea is surviving right now. I mean, China is really giving them their economy. What can President Trump do, maybe that he's not doing now, to really put them in a corner to actually act? Because they're the only ones, as you know, that can put this thing to bed.
Even for all the criticism of President Trump, that criticism, or sorry, the tough talk by the president is directed not just at Kim, but at the people around him, so that they realize if they continue with reckless behavior, it's not just Kim that's going to die, it's all of them in that circle. The Chinese pushed into those islands that they built in the South China Sea because they saw the empty suit of the Obama administration and no resistance. That wasn't even part of their strategic plan, but they saw the opening and they took it. In the same way, the North Koreans have been pushing into basically an empty suit previous to this. So the president letting them know clearly what will happen to them if they threaten American territory is the right action.
Erik,
as for China, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead and finish.
As for China with trade, I think they are getting more serious about it. They've actually put 3 Army Corps on the northern border of North Korea. I think the welcome of North Korea has pretty much been worn out. I mean, Kim is a reckless guy using a weapon of mass destruction to kill his half-brother in an international airport is the straw that broke the camel's back.
You know, Erik, I got to ask you about Afghanistan as well. Multiple reports this week that the White House is potentially considering a plan to privatize some of that war, bringing in contractors. Obviously, your background extensive in that regard. What would that look like? Is it an attempt to end the war, maintain a stalemate, actually roll the Taliban back? What does it mean to privatize that fight?
As our longest war, 16 years, close to $1 trillion, thousands of American dead, tens of thousands wounded. How does this end? And the Pentagon keeps wanting to roll with largely the same strategy we've been doing for the last 16 years. I took a step back and kind of did a zero-based analysis and said, what do we need to do to support just the Afghan security forces to keep them upright? And that it was to embed mentors, contracted positions, long-term with the Afghan army, kind of as a structural support. With some air support and some governance support, you can do that for 8% of what you're spending now. There's already 26,000 contractors in Afghanistan. There's already 9,000 U.S. troops and 4,000 NATO troops. So this is not an expansion of contractors. This would rather lead to it would allow for a huge contraction of all those people to keep the Afghan forces upright, to put relentless pressure on terrorists, and to end the war in Afghanistan.
Interesting, certainly an outside-the-box idea. Erik
Strong
Prince.
insight.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us this
Thanks,
year.
Erik.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric.